This is the first page of the at-home review. A page that's pretty much straightforward. Taking a look at our 10 by 10 grid of 100 blocks, there's 94 of them shaded. So therefore, remember what percent is. It's per 100. So we have 94 out of 100 for a percent of 94%. A decimal equivalent being 0.94 or 94 hundredths. As a fraction, it's 94 over 100. And the part to whole ratio is 94 to 100. I'm just going to reveal the bottom half of the first page, kind of talk our way through some of the things that you just have to watch out for. Remember, when changing a decimal to a percent, decimal to percent, we move the decimal twice to the right. And when going from a percent to a decimal, we're going to move the decimal twice to the left. You have to watch out for your single digit percents. Because when you swing the decimal twice to the left, you need to fill up the empty spot with a 0. So 2% is 0.02 or 2 100ths. Remember that 3/4 is really one of the fractions that was in your fraction families. That's 75% or 0.75. And also watch out for percents containing a decimal. Don't let that throw you off. We're still going to move the decimal twice to the left. And that's going to result in 0.773 or 773 thousandths. Let's take a look at page 2. All right, we're going to look at the ratio of oak trees to pine trees in Wyoming State Forest. They tell us it's 180 to 820. And right now that's a part-to-part ratio. In order to make it a part to whole, we take the part 180. And we have to figure out the total amount of trees in the forest, which is 180 plus 820. And that's going to give us a nice, neat number of 1,000. And when we write that as a fraction, it is 180 over 1,000. Now we'll do the same thing with the pine trees. That's the second part of the part-to-part ratio. That's 820. Still out of that same 1,000 total trees in the forest. And what we have to do is try to figure out what these ratios are as percents. So we're going to set up the template ratio percent, part to whole, starting with the oak trees. And that was 180 over 1,000. To change any fraction to percent, percent means per 100. So we're going to scale this down. In this case, we need to divide by 10. Whatever you do to the bottom, you do to the top. You get 18 per 100 or 18%. We'll do the same thing with the pine trees. The whole is still out of 1,000, but now the part representing the pine trees is 820. And that's going to be an equivalent to 82 per 100 or 82%. And you can always check your work because the 2% that they give you have to add up to 100%, and in this case they do. All right, let's take a look at page 3. D into N is denominator into numerator. We have to use long division for this particular fraction. So starting out with 5/8. Like I mentioned to everybody in class, I like to extend the line, make this, and that's going to tell us that the 8 is outside the house, and we're going to put 5 in, followed by a decimal and 2 zeros. Raise the rock, bring it back up to the roof so the decimals line up. And now we're going to just go through our long division. 8 can't go into 5, but it goes into 50 6 times at least. bring down our 0. 8 into 20 is going to go at least twice. That's going to make 16. And we still have to keep going because as long as we have a remainder, we got to keep bringing down zeros until it terminates or repeats. 8 goes into 40 exactly 5 times. We have a 0 remainder with nothing else but zeros to bring down, so we're done. So as a decimal, 5/8 is equal to 0.625. Changing any decimal to a percent, we're going to move the decimal twice to the right, and that's 62.5%. Okay, question number 5. Set it up as our part to whole template. And I'm going to circle the pieces of information that we're going to need. Now that 33 students is not representing the entire 8th grade. It's representing part. So we're going to put that at the top. We're trying to find the whole, or the total amount of students in 8th grade. The 15%. When you have a percent, you always have an entire ratio. 15 over 100. And now right now we cannot connect 15 to 33. It doesn't go in evenly. So we're going to scale down our 1500ths. And if you use a factor of 5, that's going to recreate an equivalent ratio of 3 to 20. And now we can connect. 3 times 11 makes 33. And if you do the same thing to our 20 and multiply 20 times 11, you get 220 as our missing number. And that's how many total students there are in 8th grade. Okay, percent of a number. You could do these setting it up as TRP. It will work. But whenever we have a straight find a percent of a particular number, they're really asking for the part. And so we could take the shortcut that I showed you in class, and that's the whole number, times the decimal equivalent for the percent. And if this confuses you, you could still set it up as TRP, and I'll just show you what it looks like as a part to whole. We are trying to find the part to the total of 1200. Our 45% becomes 45 over 100. And then look, if you multiply times 12 and do the same thing here, you'll really wind up with the same number as 1200 times 0.45. And if you do the math correctly, that is 540. Remember that a percent of a number is a number. So you don't want to put 540% here. You just leave it as is. And same thing with here. You could set this up as TRP or do straight multiplication, 380 times 0.16. You kind of go through the math with that, and if you do it correctly, and remember that you need to swing your decimal twice in the product, it is 60.8 as your answer for that. That brings us now to page 4. And that's going to start our discount type questions, identifying where these numbers go in the part, whole, and percent naming. The 30% obviously is the percent. The 1800 will be the whole. And the amount saved that they're going to ask us to find is the part. All right, let's set it up. Part over whole. Part is what we're trying to find. We're going to leave that blank for right now. The whole is 1,800. And our percent, remember when you have a percent, you have an entire ratio, 30 over 100. And then you look to see where you can connect. Can't connect here. It won't go in evenly, but it does connect evenly here. And that's going to be times 18. And do the same to the top. And if you do 30 times 18, you get the amount of money saved, which is $540. Then finally, to finish this up, well, that's the money that he's saving. We want to find out how much he's actually paying. Well, you got to substitute that or subtract that from the original amount. And if you subtract that, you'll get the amount that he's paying, which is $1,260, which is also known as the sale price. Sometimes you'll see it listed like that in lesson 28. And that takes care of page 4. Let's take a look at page 5. Okay, page 5 is our first tip question. It can also be solved using TRP. We have 150 and we have an 18% tip. Set up your template, part over whole. That 150 is the whole amount. Don't let that confuse you that because it hasn't been, or the tip hasn't been added in yet, you still don't want to call it part. It is still the whole amount. We're trying to figure out what the tip is. That's the part. 18 over 100 becomes our percent. And we cannot connect here nor here. It won't work. We're going to have to scale down our 18 over 100. And they're both divisible by 2. That's going to give us an equivalent of 9 over 50. And then we can connect 52 of 150, a factor of 3. Do the same thing to the top. And if you do 9 times 3, it winds up being a $27 tip. To figure out what the total bill will be, it's the original or whole price, the cost of the meal plus the $27 tip. And you get $177. And finally, you got to split it 3 ways. That's going to be long division. Three goes into 17 5 times. Bring down Mr. 7. And 5 into 27, it goes exactly 9 times. Winds up being $59 each. And finally, our last page, which is our very last lesson in Module 1. What we're going to do is take the amounts that they give us to try to figure out the missing amounts. And we're going to place that into our working template, our little mini equivalency ratio table here. So since 375 is the dollars paid, that's going to go in the 375 paid dollars column. 25% is the percent saved. That's going to go here. And once you have those two amounts, you could figure out everything else, the four missing values. And here's how you do it. As we learned in class, all of our percents have to add up to 100. So that's always going to go there. That is then going to make our missing percentage value 75. From there, we got to see where we can connect. From here to here, it is times 3. If you wanted to, you can also go here, but you may not see this right away, but that's a times 5. So let's work with the times 3. You got to say to yourself, what number times 3 makes 375? Or 3 into 375. And if you go through the long division, that's going to make 125. That's the amount of money saved. And then finally, the amount saved plus the amount paid has to be the original cost. So when you add that to 375, you get 500. And now we have everything we need to put back into the chart. The original price is 500 for the iPhone. The amount that was saved is 125, and the percent paid was 75%. And that concludes the at-home review. On Monday, I have an in-class review, and Tuesday will be the test. We have extra help starting on Monday at lunch, and we'll do it again on Tuesday morning at 7:15.